York Coalition. And so I'm really disappointed with the budget that just came out because it is actually not adequately funding climate action at all. So a couple of the areas that we would really want to be prioritizing would be first and foremost renewable and renewable energy needs to be a priority, and that does not come out at all in the budget. In addition, agriculture as well. Agriculture is a really great place that we can make the connection with upstate, downstate. I just heard an interview with the governor today where she was really trying to divide the Buffalo City of really dividing upstate, downstate. Agriculture is a really great place to make the connection between agriculture, the farmers, our food systems, and also the environment and how we can help to regenerate our soil and how that can also lead to support. And then the other piece is making sure our city is resilient. We have a lot of infrastructure. So many people have actually died because of flooding in our city. We need to make sure that the city is resilient, making sure our infrastructure can withstand the storms that come. Thinking about subways, roads, but also our hospitals. In this district, there are a lot of hospitals on the Upper East Side, and we need to make sure they have sustainable power grids.
In recent years, more and more advocates have called for the elimination of police intervention when it comes to mental health crisis. Studies have shown that police with untreated mental illness are 16 times more likely to be killed during law enforcement, during a police encounter, than other civilians who are approached or stopped by law enforcement. What is your position on this issue? Which policies would you propose to ensure that mental health crises are dealt with without putting lives at risk?
Yeah, I do think that this is multi-pronged to make sure that we're adequately really addressing mental health within our city, within our state, within our society. And I do think the police should not be the first line for everything that we have right now. So we should definitely be looking at bringing in mental health professionals, social workers to be addressing a lot of these mental health emergencies. And we see there's an example in Denver where already that's the response is not first and foremost from the police, and that's working out great. There was a pilot, they're already expanding that. Those are the examples we need to look at. What are other cities doing, and how are they doing that successfully to make sure they're de-escalating the problem rather than escalating and with people getting harmed as an outcome. I know some group up in Rochester has the Daniels Law, which also is addressing this situation as well. So we're moving in the right direction, but we have a long way to go in the city and state to not just lean on the police for everything, but to make sure that we're putting other systems in place. And there are examples from other cities that we can use.
You support the United Federation of Teachers' 5-point plan to help students and teachers recover from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and you plan to expand this initiative to all of New York State's public school districts. What would statewide implementation of this plan look like, and how would you get the buy-in of municipalities?
This happens, again, it's a 5-point plan, but a couple of places that I think are really fantastic is one is around making sure that there's sufficient mental health in schools. We know our children are really suffering and really struggling at this moment. So this plan really looks at that. There's already there's 2 pieces of legislation that are already being discussed. One is to make sure every school has either a social worker or a school psychologist. That's been introduced by Assembly Member Jessica Gonzalez-Rojas. And so let's get that done. That's already there, so we can make an advocate or to make sure to push that, and if I'm elected, make sure to be pushing that. So we already have something that's there. The companion to that is to make sure that we address suicidal ideation and put in place. This is another piece of legislation that has been introduced that will help put in structures and guidance so that if any child or young person has suicidal ideation, they can already have procedures to help address that. So that's one piece that is already in the works that I would support, and I think that will be great support from around the state. The other that I just want to highlight that I think is great is expanding our summer school programs to make sure that we are helping kids to get back on track. And I know that's going to be a little bit harder because there's a lot of resources that are geared for that. But that would be something that I would really fight for. We did receive a lot of additional funding from the federal government to address the impact of COVID-19. This is a really great place to use those resources to expand our summer school programs to really help kids get back on track after a couple of years of being out of school.
An audience member from Manhattan asks, how important is it to protect and support women's rights, and how do we ensure women are protected in the future?
Absolutely. We do have, women's rights need to be protected in many different ways. And one place that we can actually very seamlessly support women's rights is by supporting Senator Kruger and Senator Seawright's legislation at the state level for the Equal Rights Amendment to get that passed and making sure that we're reducing discrimination at the state level. But I feel like that's something that we need to look at every single piece of legislation that we have, to look at where are unintended consequences, where are the unintended consequences, and where does it help or hurt women, and look at those different components. And I think one of the areas that we need to look at is really making sure that at the state level, that at the Albany level, that we are leading by example. We know that the ethics laws in Albany are not very strong. JCOB 2.0 is not good. It maintains a lot of the same infrastructure that reduces accountability from lawmakers and from our legislators and elected leaders in Albany. That's a place where we can lead by example to make sure that we put in accountability mechanisms in our own state capital. So when I'm on the street talking to voters, they don't say, oh, you seem like a nice person, why do you want to go to that cesspool in Albany? We need to make sure that we're changing the entire environment in Albany so that we can also be in a place of moral high ground when we're talking to businesses and other institutions about making sure to be protecting women's rights. And I say that in terms of the ethics and accountability because everything flows from that.
Thanks. And last question. This is the 2-minute one. You have the opportunity to speak about a policy issue of choice that the previous questions did not give you a chance to address.
Fantastic. I want to talk about universal child care. I put it under my Family First platform. So universal child care is really critical for our state. And it was something that we were really advocating for in this last budget. Really just want to highlight how disappointing this last budget is. The universal health care, or child care, we want that too. Universal child care that we want is all encompassing to make sure that there really is universal child care, to make sure that child care is accessible and affordable. We know those are both issues that are concerning families all over the state, and we know how that greatly impacts women. And we know how many women have left the workforce over the last couple of years. I was just reading that of women that have not gone back into the workforce, 35% say child care is the reason why. We need to address this issue to make sure that families can get back on their feet, making sure children get quality care as well. We know that that will have short-term impacts and long-term impacts in terms of our societal goals. And also, we need to make sure that the people who are providing child care, mostly women of color, are getting a fair wage. We know that so many women who are providing child care are living in poverty wages. And that it's just not right. And anybody who spends any time with a 2-year-old knows how hard that work is. So we need to make sure that we are expanding the salaries for child care workers. What was put in the budget was just these grants to help stabilize the industry. Short-term grants does not provide for the long-term planning for the entire industry so that we can make sure that we actually resolve the crisis that we have, which is a child care crisis that really impacts women, children, and families.